Last year, my sister said no to a wedding she'd already said yes to. No excuse, no apology. She just said, "I'm not going." And I realized something had shifted in her that I couldn't quite name. Until I started seeing it in myself, and in almost every Gen X woman I know who's quietly changing without announcing it. Research says a woman starts changing on the inside years before it shows on the outside. Turns out, getting older comes with unspoken rules. Nobody told you these rules were even there. You just followed them anyway. Here are 5 of them Gen X women are already breaking, and rule number 4 is the one that surprises women most. I'll tell you mine. Notice what I just said. Not that this is coming, that it's already started, in ways you might not have named yet, even to yourself. That's the part nobody warns you about. Change like this doesn't arrive as one big moment with a name tag on it. It happens rule by rule, and most women break every one of them before they ever realize that's what they were doing. Rule 1. Always be available. Say yes to everyone. You stop. Your circle gets smaller, and it doesn't feel like a loss. You used to say yes to every invitation. The barbecue you didn't really want to go to. The group text you felt obligated to answer within the hour. Lately, you look at your calendar, quietly cancel the thing you never wanted to do in the first place, and instead of guilt, you feel something closer to relief. You keep the coffee with the one friend who actually gets it, and you let the rest go without much ceremony. The phone doesn't ring as much as it used to, and for a while that scared you. Lately, you've noticed it doesn't anymore. The people who do call, you actually want to talk to. Here's what's actually happening, and it has a real name. A psychologist named Laura Carstensen studies something called socioemotional selectivity theory. Her research, done at Stanford over decades, found something specific. As people sense their time feels more limited, even in a quiet, background way they'd never say out loud, they don't withdraw by accident. They narrow on purpose. Fewer people, deeper conversations. Less small talk with people who drain more than they give. It isn't decline, it's editing. Now, I want to be honest with you here, because not every smaller circle is a choice, and I won't pretend it is. Sometimes friends move away. Sometimes they get sick or they're gone, and nobody replaces them. And that's a real loss, not something to dress up as growth. If that's your circle, this rule isn't about you, and that's not a failure on your part either. But if you're the one doing the choosing, quietly deciding who's worth the drive across town and who isn't anymore, that's not you getting smaller, that's you getting specific. That's rule 1, broken. Rule 2, you have to fix everyone's problems. This one, you break quietly. You might not even notice it happening in the moment. Maybe it's a family group text that starts to spiral. The same 2 people going back and forth about something that isn't going to get resolved either way. The old you would have jumped in, typed out a response, tried to smooth it over or defend your side. Now you read it, feel the pull for about half a second, and just put the phone down. Not because you don't care, because it stopped costing you anything to let it go. You don't even feel the need to explain yourself afterward either. No one asks why you didn't chime in, and if they did, you wouldn't owe them an essay about it. If you're Gen X, you were raised on cynicism. It was practically our birthright. So when your brain starts letting go of small irritations faster than it used to, it can feel disorienting at first, like you're going soft. Researchers who study aging have a name for what just happened with that phone. They call it the positivity effect, and it's been tested again and again. Older adults, watched in study after study, pay more attention to good moments and remember them more clearly than bad ones, while younger adults tend to do the opposite, holding on to the sting longer than the sweetness. It's not that you're forcing yourself to be positive, gritting your teeth through it. Your attention itself has quietly started favoring what's good, almost without asking your permission first. That's not you getting soft. That's your mind getting efficient about what actually deserves the space it's got left. If you noticed yourself in that one, tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. Rule 3 is the one that tends to surprise the people closest to you before it surprises you. Rule 3. Make yourself smaller so people feel comfortable. You stop shrinking yourself to be liked. Maybe you're in your 50s and you're out shopping with your sister, and she holds up a blouse and says, "This one's more you," meaning the safer one, the one that won't draw a second look. And for the first time in years, you just say, "I like this one," and put the loud one in the cart instead. Or someone at a family dinner asks, again, why you haven't done something about the gray. And you notice you're not even irritated by it anymore. You just don't have an answer for them, because it was never really their question to ask. Gen X women learned this rule early. Latchkey generation. Don't rock the boat. Don't be difficult. For decades, you got praised for being easy to be around. There's real research behind this shift. Psychologists sometimes call it the maturity principle, and it comes from decades of studies tracking the same people over long stretches of their lives. One pattern holds up again and again across that research. As people age, a trait called neuroticism, the tendency to worry constantly about what everyone else thinks, reliably goes down. Meanwhile, traits tied to steadiness, self-control, and plain confidence tend to rise. The American Psychological Association has summarized it about as directly as research ever gets. Personality changes for the better with age. You're not getting harder to deal with, whatever anyone implies. You're getting harder to talk out of what you actually think. Rule 4 is the strangest one on this list to break, because it doesn't come from anything falling apart. It comes out of absolutely nowhere. Rule 4. Don't start something new at your age. You feel a pull towards something you never wanted before, and you can't explain where it came from. I told you at the start I'd tell you mine. Last spring, out of absolutely nowhere, I signed up for a beginner guitar class at the community center. I have never once in 58 years wanted to play guitar. Nobody suggested it to me. Nothing dramatic happened that week that would explain it. I just saw the flyer taped to the grocery store window on a Tuesday, and something in me said yes before I'd even finished reading the whole thing. I sat in my car in the parking lot afterward for a good 5 minutes, wondering what had just happened to me. There's an honest answer, and it's called terror management theory. It sounds heavier than it actually is. The idea in plain terms is this. Once your sense of time shifts, even in a way you'd never put into words, it changes what your mind reaches for. You stop reaching for what you're supposed to want, the things that look good on paper, and start reaching for what actually matters to you. Right now, today, whether or not it makes sense to anyone else. That's not a crisis. A crisis is loud, and it usually comes with a reason attached, something breaking first. This is quieter than that. It shows up as a flyer you can't stop thinking about, a class you look up at 11 at night and then close out of, twice, before finally signing up. A hobby with no practical use whatsoever that you want anyway, for no reason you could defend if someone asked you to. If something like that has been tapping on the inside of your days lately, a class, a trip, a strange little thing you'd never say out loud because it sounds silly at your age, that is not a distraction from your real life. That is rule number 4. And out of all 5, it is the one that surprises women the most, because it doesn't feel like becoming someone new at all. It feels like being interrupted by yourself. And here's what all 4 of those broken rules have quietly been building toward. Rule 5. Expect less as you get older. This is the one that ties the rest together. You are happier than you expected to be at this age, and it keeps catching you off guard. Maybe it was something small. You caught yourself laughing, really laughing, at something ordinary. A joke your grandson told badly, or the dog doing something ridiculous in the yard. And it hit you afterward that you couldn't remember the last time something that small had felt that good. This next part isn't just a nice thought. There's a real number behind it. An economist at Dartmouth named David Blanchflower spent years studying happiness data from dozens of countries around the world. He found the same pattern over and over. Life satisfaction dips lowest somewhere in midlife, historically around the late 40s, and then it climbs back up through the 60s and beyond. A pattern so consistent that other researchers have gone on to replicate it hundreds of times since his first paper on it. Nobody tells you that part. You hear plenty about the losses that come with getting older. You rarely hear that happiness itself turns a corner and starts climbing again. Right around now, quietly, without asking permission first. You're not falling apart. You're not even changing. Not really. Not in the way that word usually implies something is being lost. You're arriving. And if you're honest with yourself, most of you are already further along than you think. Remember at the start, when I said it had already started, in ways you might not have named yet, even to yourself? That's it. That's the feeling. It was never one big transformation arriving all at once. It was your circle getting smaller on purpose. It was letting small things go faster than they used to sting. It was speaking plainly instead of shrinking yourself smaller just to be liked. It was a flyer on a window you couldn't explain wanting, and underneath all 4 of those, quietly, it was this. Getting happier than you were sold you'd be at this age, one ordinary week at a time. One more thing before we're done here. The people who loved the old version of you may not recognize the new one. They may ask what's wrong or tell you you've changed. That's not proof something's wrong. That's how you know it's working. If you saw yourself in even one of these 5 rules today, tell me which one in the comments. I want to know. And if this is the first time someone has actually named what's been happening to you, instead of just naming what's been taken from you, that is exactly why I make these videos. Subscribe, and I'll keep naming the rest of it with you.